Welcome to Ignite the CEO Within, the podcast where we dive deep into the minds of top business leaders to ignite your inner CEO. I'm your host, Mark McFatridge, founder of Quaid, and with each episode, we bring you inspiring conversations with CEOs and business owners who share their experiences, insights, and lessons learned along the way. Get ready to be motivated, empowered, and equipped with the tools you need to succeed in your own leadership journey. Let's ignite the CEO within you. Welcome to another edition of Igniting the CEO Within. I'm Mark McFatridge, founder and CEO of Quaid, and I am pumped to bring this discussion to you all today. For those of you that are new to our podcast or even Quaid, Quaid is a community of CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs who come together to challenge each other, to support each other, to hold each other accountable. We do this in a bunch of different ways, including a curated circle of allies who meet regularly in a confidential setting. Those meetings are led by experienced CEOs that have sat in that seat and know what they're talking about. But another way that we do it is to help bring focus to the members of our community and how they became CEOs and what their path and backgrounds and experiences were that led them to starting their own company or taking over as an executive in the CEO seat. And what's been cool for me to see is just how unique and different every single one of those stories is. And today is no different. So I am excited to get to hang out today with Greg Freeman for the next 30 minutes or so. Greg is the founder and CEO of Strive Financial Group. It's a company he founded almost 5 years ago. Greg, man, welcome to Igniting the CEO Within.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm excited to get going here.
Hey, I'm excited. I love your story, right? We've known each other now for a couple of years and love where you come from, what you're about, what you stand for, and all that kind of stuff. But take us your path to deciding to launch your own financial advisory firm.
Yeah, it's the only thing I've ever done. So right out of graduating from IU, I was 23 and got the opportunity to come into the financial services industry. And I have a finance degree through the Keller School of Business in Indiana, but I don't know if that necessarily prepped me for what I was getting into. But, you know, I had that opportunity and got into financial services with probably the dream of blue sky. You know, you get what you put into it and you can make it what you decide to make it. And I think everybody's journey in our industry is a little bit different. For me, I'm starting out as a young guy, 23 years old, don't have any money, don't know anything about retirement planning, financial planning, investments, and I'm kind of learning as we go. So I did that as well as I could for 10 years with the firm here in Indianapolis. And then 5 years ago, it started as Trustwell Strategies, but now we've rebranded to Strive Financial Group. We have several advisors. We're an independent RIA, which means we're fiduciaries and we do things a little bit different than maybe a lot of other firms in town. But, you know, after doing this industry for 10 years, I wanted to kind of branch out and do, you know, I learned a lot of good things and a lot of things that I did not like and thought we could do better. And that was kind of the whole thought behind starting Strive. And that was, a little over 5 years ago.
So if you think back to that, I mean, even going back to high school or growing up, were you surrounded by entrepreneurs? Was that something that you saw on a regular basis? And you're like, I'm going to own my business. I'm my own business someday. Or you just kind of saw an opportunity and took it. How did that evolution come about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I ever sat there and said I want to be a business owner. Now, my dad does own a business in Greenfield, Indiana, but he's also a fireman. And I always looked at him as a fireman, not a business owner growing up. But then when I was in college, I started a landscaping company and hired some of my buddies. And literally the reason we did it is because we wanted to control our own hours and our own compensation because we all wanted to buy motorcycles is honestly why we did it. So we worked hard and we got a lot of jobs and just got to really control our own destiny. And I think that's where I started to realize, like, man, I don't want to have a boss. I want to do things the way that I think needs to be done. I want to push the boundaries on the ways that I believe can be done. And that's probably where it started. When I got in this business, I do remember my dad gave me some advice that he probably doesn't even remember he gave me, but he said, "Hey, you're never going to have any less commitments and priorities than you do right now. So if you're going to take a shot on yourself and bet on yourself, do it." And so once I did that, I mean, being a former athlete and just a competitor, I wasn't going to stop. I remember just kind of joking around with guys. I was like, man, I work half days. I don't know which 12 hours it'll be, but I'm going to put in half days. And sometimes in this business, I had to meet with clients and prospects in the evening. So it might be the back half of the 12-hour shift, or it might have been a morning shift. So, that's where I got started, and just, I was willing to do anything and everything to make sure it worked. And sure enough, I lasted long enough for it to work.
Just real quickly, what was the first bike you bought?
It was a Yamaha Gixxer, I think it was. It was a crotch rocket. I loved it, except I was scared on it, and my brother wasn't. So I always tried to get better, and instead, I was probably risking my life.
So you mentioned growing up an athlete, and of course you're from Indiana, so basketball was at least, I'm assuming it was your sport of choice. I know it was one that you had a lot of success at. But when you think back to having that background in sports and growing up in sports, do you think that had any influence on your work ethic, how you attack things, even the thought of, kind of controlling your own destiny and that type of stuff?
Yeah, actually, my very first sport was Taekwondo karate. That's where I got started. So I learned discipline, I learned technique, form, work ethic. That's where I started. And I became a black belt and actually the sparring champion. This was when I was young, but sparring champion in 3 states. But then basketball really became my love, and I gave up Taekwondo. And again, you get out what you put into it. And for me, it was, I was always disciplined on making sure I got my shots up. And, I used to hit 200 shots a day, and I'd go in through the boiler room in the morning before school and get those shots up and go into the weight room. So absolutely. I think, now it's golf, and I've gotten into pickleball here recently, and I've fallen in love with that. But, I just think the discipline, and I love working on my game, doing it by myself even. And I do think that makes a difference. You learn a ton of just great skills and work ethic and disciplines by being an athlete. And that really translates to business. I mean, I can see the correlation in nearly everything that I do. And our team, we have a lot of former athletes. We've got a former basketball national champion and Joe Hillman with IU. We've got other college athletes that played college baseball and college basketball and college golf. So, I think just in our business, because time management, and those disciplines, they correlate so well to our business, that I do think it's important.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the competitive nature, right? Of you don't want to lose. And it starts with effort, it starts with energy, it starts with just going after it and never giving up and following through. I'm a huge believer in surrounding myself with athletes as teammates and that type of stuff, because those are things that they learn early on that others can learn over time. But if you're an athlete at a young age, I think that stuff gets built into you pretty early on, and it never leaves you at some level, right? Very cool. You also, like, I mean, we're almost getting into a John Mellencamp piece, but you grew up in a small town as well, and as did I. You grew up at what, Knightstown, and I grew up in Logansport, and to me, there's something about that as well. And I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but it's one of those things where everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows kind of your business. And so you've got to almost keep a really good reputation in how you go about things. And there's a country song, "You're always 17 in your hometown," or something like that. So I can never go back to Logansport because of the stuff I did when I was 17. But I do think that growing up in a small town was a really cool foundation for me in business. I think it taught you how to build relationships. I think it taught you how to communicate to people and all that kind of stuff. Do you see the same thing from you and you growing up back then?
I would say that it does matter. I think a couple things is, I graduated with 80 people in my graduation class, and You learn leadership because you're typically the leader on every sports team. Maybe academically you're the leader, so you learn leadership. You also learn winning, and you become very confident in everything that you do. I mean, I haven't this might sound bad, but when I was at Nice, I hadn't failed a lot. So then when you get in this business, you're failing for the first time, because in this business, for one, I mean, it's sales in general. You fail probably 85% of the time. So I'm learning how to fail for the first time. I'm going through adversity for the first time, but I can go back to the old days when I was at Knightstown and just saying, okay, let's just continue to follow the process and continue what we're doing. And if we're doing the right things, I do believe at the end of the day, what you're trying to accomplish will happen. It might just take a little bit of time. So I was coming out of Knightstown with a lot of confidence, with a lot of wins in whatever category you want to bring up. And then you got to figure out, how does that translate or even transfer into the business world?
Yeah. I had forgotten about this or didn't bring it up when I was talking about that. But, I think that's the other thing, that growing up in a small town, like I was fortunate, I got to play 3 sports through my freshman year in high school. And then I dropped basketball and only focused on football and baseball. But, I can't imagine, and maybe it's even different today, but, had I grown up in a larger school system, I probably would have had only been able to play one sport, if any. And I think getting that exposure, that taught me a bunch of different things, right? I was a pretty decent baseball player, so I was, captain and all that. I was a role player in basketball, so I learned how to be a role player. In football, I was decent. I wasn't great, but I learned how to play those different things. I wasn't always, the best, and did that. I also learned how to be a role player and a good teammate from those experiences, and having and getting that I might not have had somewhere else.
I agree. I mean, that was very impactful for me, because you really do. You learn to lead every day, regardless on what team it's on. And you also have different teammates in each sport. So
Yeah, yeah. You talked about it a little bit. So now I'm kind of focusing on Strive. You talked about when you decided to go out on your own and launch Strive, ultimately Strive, that you did it because you saw some things that you felt passionate about, and you didn't necessarily love a lot of the things in your industry, and you wanted to put some changes in place. Can you walk through some of the differences that you have for not only your teammates, but also the clients?
yeah, I think our industry is evolving, and we're kind of a laggard. Our industry is a laggard. So, we're starting to become more transparent. We're starting to become fee conscious. These things are all good for the clients. But when I first got into the business over 15 years ago, commissions were high, and you were selling products that were maybe best for Wall Street or best for insurance companies and those types of things. And you're being told to do that by your superiors, but maybe they're not the best for the clients. And as you start to learn the business, and as you get to see and feel like, man, I feel like I'm winning, but are my clients always winning? I just didn't feel good about that. But I knew, after doing research and after figuring out there's other ways to doing it. And once I felt comfortable and had the client base and support of advisors wanting to join, with what this vision was of Strive, we created it. And now, not a day goes by where I'm like, is my client not winning? But I am. It's always the clients are winning, the advisors are winning. We've been able to create processes and experiences for the advisor and the client to both do what they enjoy doing, which for the advisor is just spend time with their clients versus have to do all the behind the scenes paperwork and that type of thing. And for the client, it's just having a client centric experience where they're able to have transparent information and know that they're not paying fees and not realizing it, and that they're getting the types of returns that fit with their risk tolerance and those types of things that I think our industry is coming around. We're not there yet, but we are coming around to it. Technology is helping with that, but especially 15 years ago, I just felt like there was a lot of lack of transparency and a lot of fee gouging that probably shouldn't have been happening.
Yeah. When you started to roll that out, was it an easy sell to new financial advisors to come on that we're doing, they've been accustomed to doing it one way and you're on the forefront of kind of changing it out. Was there pushback? Was it hard to recruit or was it easy?
A little bit of both. When things become more transparent, the conversation with the client changes. They're starting to see fees, even if they're less than what they were before, they're starting to see it and notice it and comprehend that there's fees in there that maybe they hadn't even realized before. So I think once you coach the advisors and the only advisors that are going to fit in the culture and with the firm are ones that are wanting to do what's in the best interest of their clients anyway. So once they understand, why they're doing that and why they need to have the conversations and how this is better for them and their clients, it sells itself. You're seeing the industry. I mean, you're seeing the industry really move towards independent RIAs versus these big broker dealer shops or insurance companies, because the reason I think most advisors get in this industry anyway is because they want to help people and help their clients. And as that continues to shift towards the way Strive is built, advisors want to do that. So it's really an easy sale.
We'll dive back into the conversation in just a moment. But first, a quick word from one of our strategic partners, Ice Miller. For more than a century, Ice Miller has helped clients navigate the full range of legal and business issues they face. Whether it be in the boardroom or the courtroom, our lawyers have evolved with the marketplace, providing sound counsel when you need it the most. Though our Midwest roots run deep, we serve clients from coast to coast and bring to bear international capabilities and insights. As a cohesive team, Ice Miller stands ready to provide cutting-edge legal solutions tailored to you. Learn more at icemiller.com. How do you screen for that up front? Like if you've got somebody that wants to join Strive, but they're coming from one of the big broker dealer houses, how do you screen to make sure that, it's easy to say, oh yeah, we want to make sure the client's taken care of, but they've been doing it one way for a really long time. How do you guys screen for that? How do you figure that out, whether that person's going to be a good culture fit for you?
Well, it's hard, but I think just like you pick your friends, you spend time with them and you figure out the authenticity that they have and what's important to them and what's important to their clients. And you just got to trust your gut. I mean, not every advisor is a good fit for us, and we're not a good fit for every advisor, and that's okay. People like to do things differently. But for us, I have noticed, and I think what we've gotten back to is, maybe not growing so quick, but growing with the right people, having the right people around you, making sure the processes fit what the advisor and the client experience is what that advisor wants. We have grown a little too fast, and we've maybe let our walls down and opened up our culture a little bit too wide, where we brought in people that maybe aren't as good of a fit. And, I'm learning. I learn every day. And I think really trying to do your due diligence just from a relationship and personality standpoint is probably the most important. It's not about, at least for me, what I've realized is it's not all about revenue. It's not all about the dollars. It's about, are you waking up excited? Do you like who you're working with? Do you love your clients and enjoy those conversations? And as long as those things are happening, I think naturally you figure out who should be a part of your organization.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's good. When you started out and you're kind of, again, doing something slightly differently than what's been going on, like, did you have pushback from, maybe some of the old heads that had been around and were like, that's never going to work. You're stupid for doing that. Or, we've always done it this way. So why are you going to do anything different? Did you ever get any pushback or anything like that?
Oh yeah. And you lose relationships and friendships because, they don't like what you're doing, or maybe that you're not making them money anymore. So yes, you get all sorts of pushback, but industry trends, not just us, but industry trends across the country is trending towards this direction. So we're starting to catch up. You see a lot of advisors getting out of those big wirehouses, broker dealers, insurance companies, and going into the independent space. And the reason they're doing that is because it's the right move. And I think you'll continue to see that shift in our industry over the next decade at least.
Yeah. Well, I think it's tied appropriately, right? Of if our clients win, we win. If they lose, we're going to feel that as well. So, we're going to do the right thing, and then it all balances out. You got into this at a pretty young age, right? I mean, at starting your company at what, you were probably 31, 32 years old, something like that.
Yeah, when I started Strive originally, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Focusing on like people of your generation and the leadership skills that are needed today are probably a lot different than when I was 30 some odd years old, right? Which was a long time ago. How do you see that going? Because like if you go out and you just Google next gen leaders and you hear empathy and growth mindset and optimism and curiosity and all that kind of stuff. But like what are you seeing as some of the skills, especially as you continue to develop as a leader in your time? What are some of the things that stand out that you've learned to do better, or you see where you need to even step it up a little bit more?
From my experience, what I think the younger generation is starving to get more of is collaboration, responsibility, be able to make decisions, to weigh in, those types of things. I don't think it's as much about the paycheck for them is what that's been my experience. They really want to be able to control in our world. They want to control their experience with their client. They want to be able to recommend and advise the way that they genuinely believe is good advice, not being told what to advise because everybody's situation is differently. Everybody thinks differently. That's the same for advisors as well. So for us, we want to give them the tools and the processes to be successful, but I want them to give their genuine, authentic advice because ultimately that's what the client wants. They believe in you. They believe in your advice. So they're not asking for my advice. They're asking for that advisor's advice. So as long as we can give them the tools to be able to give the advice that they believe. And I'll tell you, if you sit down with three of our advisors, one prospect sits down with three of our advisors, they'll feel some similarities, but they'll feel some differences too, because every one of those advisors has different experiences and has different advice that they give their clients based on, their experience and how they believe. And to me, that's incredibly important. And then ultimately, if the client doesn't believe the way that that advisor believes, then that's okay. And they'll find someone that they can work with. But, for us from a leadership standpoint, I think it's having autonomy, being able to weigh in, less about the money. Sure, everybody wants to make money, but I think it's less about the money and it's more about, that autonomy to be able to create an experience that they would like.
Yeah. How do you insert yourself to help do some mentoring, right? I mean, if you bring in somebody that's, maybe got a few years of financial advisor experience and yeah, they want all those things but have they earned the right to have that autonomy and all that? How do you, kind of walk that fine line of providing the autonomy, but keeping your hand on it just a little bit, just enough that they're carrying out the right things to do, the right things that focus on strive, that type of stuff. How do you walk that line?
Well, that's a good question. For us, we have only experienced advisors, but let's say you bring someone in new. I mean, I would want to teach them and learn, how they think. They're getting in this industry for a reason. So they probably have some sort of background, at least, how they were taught about money, what their mom and dad taught them about money, what they learned in school, whatever the case might be. But so I think you want to give them enough tools to learn, but you naturally start to believe one way. And I'll certainly give them my beliefs and thoughts around whatever topic we're talking about, but they'll start to, at least for me, what I liked is I tried to be a sponge. I wanted to talk to everybody I could. And then I ended up believing probably a combination of everybody's thoughts, but you certainly want to put guardrails on a new advisor, help them learn. But that's also why we do almost every single time we'll do joint work and collaboration amongst advisors. So if you've got an advisor that, let's say, is a fireman, we might have an advisor that specializes in working with firemen, bring him in, help him, teach that younger advisor on how to work with a fireman, how do firemen think. That's just one example, but I think joint work and collaboration amongst the advisors has been a critical part of our success.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, the way you have things set up anyway, from a structure standpoint, that's more likely today than it would have been 15, 20 years ago when it was very fee focused. It was very individualized. I'm going to get mine type stuff, right? That peer work probably didn't happen nearly as much.
Yeah. And I think when I first got in the business, it was more cutthroat, even with what was called or considered teammates, is you kind of competed against each other and you didn't really want to have that collaboration. That's really shifted over the last 10, 15 years as well, where advisors want to have more collaboration. Clients want to have more than just one set of eyes on their financials, which is always a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I love about you, you're highly principled, dedicated to your craft, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that you talk about often is kind of your dedication to yourself to make sure that you're right and you're taking care of yourself first. And you do that really, really well. And you have kind of a daily routine that helps you set up for success. Walk us through that, just because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. I keep track on my notes and I've got apps and all sorts of things, but I'm a checkbox checklist type of guy. So I want to check things off throughout the day. And I think what you're talking about are the 5 anchors that I try to do every single day. And that's sweat, stretch, meditate, journal, and intentionally read. That's not Facebook or something like that. It's intentionally read a book, whether it's a business book or whatever the case is. But I try to check those boxes off every single day. Typically I get them done early in the morning because I'm a morning person. I'm up by 4:30 every morning. So I'll get most of those done before most people are awake. But I have found when I am able to check those 5 things off, I pretty much always have a good day. And whatever happens after that, it's usually it's pretty good. And, on days that I don't feel like doing those anchors, I still try to do them. So I'm not sure what I said. If I said exercise or sweat, I think I said sweat. I say sweat because on days that maybe I don't want to work out or I'm not feeling as well, I'll try to go jump in the steam room and I'll just sweat. So I'm just trying to check those boxes every day. If I don't have time to read or something, maybe I'll read a small chapter of a business book that might be 4 pages long. So I just want to check those boxes every day. And that's been a staple of mine for as long as I can remember, and it'll continue to be.
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah, like I said, I think, we're all coming around to, if we're not right, our team's not going to be right. We've got to take care of ourselves first. And that's not selfish. It's really even more giving to everybody else than it is for anything else. So, man, I love it. I love hanging out with you and know that we could talk for a couple of hours for sure, but we've got to start to wind this thing up. And one of the things that I love to do is to kind of get inside the heart and the head of our guests. And I asked for your I believe statement. So something that you really believe in, it could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could be whatever. But if I looked at you and I said, Greg Freeman, what do you believe? What would that be?
I would say I believe in chasing that horizon, maybe. I guess what that means to me is, when I think of chasing the horizon, I think there could be a positive and a negative connotation to that. But to me, it's positive. You're not chasing a destination. To me, there's no destination. You're always chasing that horizon. You're chasing that goal. You're enjoying the process, the journey, self-improvement, self-growth. There is no destination in my mind. So I would say chasing that horizon and just trying to be better each and every day and striving to be the best version you can be for yourself, for your company, for your clients, for your family. I would say that that's what I believe.
Yep. I love it. I've been using the phrase lately, always forward. And that's kind of my phrase for 2025. And I've used it for a long time, but for me, always forward is the same thing as chasing that horizon. It really doesn't matter what happened behind you. It's about moving forward and getting better every day and all that kind of stuff. And you said maybe there's some negative to that. I think in my head, if I start to analyze that, like the negative would be that I probably don't celebrate successes as much as I should, right? Like it's like, okay, check box, check that one off. What's next? And if I needed to do something better, I think it would be to celebrate the success and the journey that I've had behind me. So I'm with you. I think it's overwhelmingly positive, but if I had to find a negative in that's probably where that would be.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I personally, have found when I set a goal and I hit it, once you hit that goal, it's not like something changed. You might be saying, if I had this, then I would feel like that. And that's just I have found for me that that's never the case. It's enjoy the process and let that horizon continue to stay out there.
Yep. Yep. I love it, man. This has been great. It's been fun to watch you continue to grow as a leader. I am so thankful to have you in the Quaid community and playing a big role with your allies and your circle. And it's really cool. So thanks for joining me on Igniting the CEO Within. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Hey, well, folks, we've done it again. We found another pathway to the CEO seat. I hope that these episodes are sparking something inside of you and show you that you have what it takes to be a CEO or an entrepreneur. Until next time, I'm Mark McFatridge. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining today's conversation. If our discussion has sparked your interest in our community of unapologetically authentic leaders, head on over to QuaidCircle.com, where you can learn more about Quaid and take our exclusive CEO Mindset Assessment to help elevate your leadership journey. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and leave a review to help us continue delivering valuable insights and inspiring stories from top business leaders.